You could be larger than life.
Hello and welcome to the Answer Yes podcast. This is my Live Life Driven show today, and I'm trying to squeeze them in before the Christmas holiday. I think we've got a lot of things to be thankful for, and just especially what kind of year we've had. I get a newsletter from Andy Frisella every day, who has the Real AF podcast. He's the founder of First Forum, and I've been bringing him up lately because I really appreciate what he's saying. But in the newsletter, it's fairly long today, but one of the things he talks about is having a clear calling that, for something that excites you every day. And it's about the gratitude that you express. It's about the purpose you identify and what you work towards and having control of your life. And, that resonates with me. Every night before I go to bed and we're putting the girls in bed, we always go around the room and say 1 to 3 things that we're grateful for. And I'm always impressed with what a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old can say that they're grateful for. And it's just really a nice way to end your day. And I think, again, we have a lot to be grateful for in a very challenging year of 2020. And I look forward to moving past some of these things, and hopefully everybody's happy and healthy. And with that, I'm always impressed by the people that reach out to me and have an interest in being on the show, or they've got great businesses. And I thought, we got a holiday coming up. Maybe somebody's needs some last-minute ideas for shopping. And my guest today has a wonderful hair care line, and I want to introduce Lynne McNelis to you today. Lynne, how are you?
I am doing great.
Yeah, sorry. We got an early morning call today. I don't know how often you do Zooms at, I guess it's 8 a.m. So
it's okay. Kids are at school, and I'm ready to start my day.
Yeah, I have this ranch life up here, and I realize I'm not a very good cowboy because you got to get up at 5 a.m. to start feeding the horses and the chickens and the rabbits. So I've been suffering running behind every day. Today I did get up early because of the call, so thank you for the help today. You're calling in from Frisco, Texas, and you've got a beautiful website of products, and we'll talk about that. But I'd love to hear some background on you and where your entrepreneurial spirit started. And so, as typical in our shows, if you can back up a little bit in your life and tell us something about your childhood or when you got into school and started becoming an entrepreneur.
Okay, cool. So I am in Texas now, but I am actually a Louisiana girl. I'm a South Louisiana girl. And, grew up there, just loved the culture, hated the weather. So what's funny is that I never knew, my hair, because I make hair products. I never knew what my hair could really do until I started moving around in different places and being in different climates. And so that definitely has a lot to do with what I do now. But growing up, I was always a beauty enthusiast. I mean, as early as I can remember, I practically spent half my childhood in pink sponge rollers. And as a guy, you probably don't know what that is. But back in the 80s, this is, a really big deal. And I would sleep in them at night and just wait to wake up to curly hair, because all I ever wanted was curly hair. You always want what you don't have. And so I spent my life in sponge rollers. And I remember some of my favorite dolls growing up were dolls that I could do their hair. It was all about styling hair. Yeah. So I learned to braid at an early age. And it's funny that, I grew up that way, but now when I look back on it, it makes perfect sense to me. And I kind of put the pieces together. Hair was always a big deal for me. I grew up also competing in dance. Mm-hmm. So I was always on stage, or I was a cheerleader. I was also, I was on my dance team in college, and hair is a big deal. Whether it needed to be braided or in a bun or slicked back or high ponytails that didn't fall when you were, doing cheer jumps or, performing on a field at a football game, you needed to have big hair that lasts, because if you don't, you would look tiny in a giant, 100,000 people in a stadium. Yeah. So hair has just been a big part of my life. And when I graduated college, so I graduated from LSU, and I was looking for a job. I started working in New Orleans and at this advertising agency, because I did graduate in advertising, and I'm pretty sure they just gave me a job because they liked me. There was really not
because you had good hair.
Yeah, I had great hair. So I started applying for jobs, and I'll tell you, I moved to Texas for a job of a company I had no clue who they were, because I was in Louisiana. We didn't have this company in Louisiana. It was a salon that I didn't know about. It was actually Tony and Guy salons. And so I applied for a job on monster.com, and they called me in for an interview. Well, I didn't tell them, little secret, I didn't tell them I lived in Louisiana, because everyone told me for entry-level positions, no one wants to relocate, right? So I put my aunt and uncle's address in Dallas on my resume. They called me in for an interview. I called up Southwest Airlines, got on a flight, and came for an interview. And I left that day with a job offer.
Awesome.
So it worked out really well for me. I found out during my interview that there was more to just the salons, that there was actually a whole product line, and it was hair care. And I thought, this sounds right up my alley. So I immediately, they said, I remember in one of my interviews, my first interview with the owner of the company, who good thing I had no clue who they were, because I would have been super nervous. I remember her asking me, "Are you a product junkie?" And I didn't know how to answer that, coming from, a small town. And I just thought, I don't even know if I should answer this. Do I say yes or do I say no? Is it bad or is it good? And my gut said, say yes. And so I did. I was like, yes, I'm a product junkie. And I think that's what sold it for me.
Wow. Wow. What, that took a lot of initiative to say that you're from Texas and fly out there for a job interview, that you didn't know the capacity of the job, really. It says a lot about your drive and willingness to do what it takes to get a job.
I did. I wanted a job. I wanted to work. And I don't know, just took the opportunity. I mean, jobs are hard to come by. And that's what, people would tell me for being a recent grad. Sometimes it's hard to get an entry level position. And I didn't want to pass up an opportunity. Of course, arriving and finding out it's in the beauty industry was a plus.
Yeah, yeah. But by the way, I do know what sponge rollers are. Okay, I was around in the 80s. I graduated in 86. But as a dad of a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, I'm listening to you talk. I have to do at least one of their hair every morning. And I'm thinking, I got to pay attention here to this show, because it's one of the toughest parts of my day, because they want all kinds of different things, and I'm spraying in product to get it straight and everything. So I'm all in on this show, by the way. So continue your story. You land this job in Texas. So did you just go back home and pack up and get in the car and drive to Texas and move?
I did.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. I packed up my little Mazda and drove to Texas, and I lived with my aunt and uncle for a little while, which was great. And I just immersed myself into the job, and it's been one of the biggest blessings of my life, because it's carved the path of where I am today. So without that first job, I would never be here right now. It has been my journey for the last 20 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
And, people talking about, kind of taking a leap of faith. I also felt like they took a leap of faith on me. They didn't know me. I just was some college graduate that was super eager to work. And I, am so thankful that they took their leap of faith on me. And hopefully I proved that I was worth it.
Yeah. What were your takeaways from there that enabled you to start your own business?
You know what? I guess what I learned throughout my time working in the professional beauty industry, and especially for the company that I worked for, it was a privately owned company, but it was a big company. I learned more about myself and my passion for hair. So it wasn't just about, here's a product, or here's a shampoo, or here's a hairspray. It was how I connected, and how the hairspray and products actually connect with people, right? There are so many brands out there. There really are. There's the space is very crowded, but not necessarily in a bad way, because I was, listening to other podcasts, and it's like, we all have skin, we all have hair, you know? And so that's okay. And everyone is starting with a different canvas of hair, and everybody has a different journey to get to the style that they want. So it's all about connecting. It's all about, creating an experience, not just a product.
Yeah.
And that was something that one of my key takeaways and, my biggest mentor in the company, she was, such an inspiration. And I remember, I remember, you're in school and you learn these like rules, right? The rules of marketing,
right?
Or, the rules of advertising, like what you're supposed to do, all these checks and balances. And I remember one of the things was, rule breakers or rule makers. And that was kind of what she would always say. We had a giant, a canvas in our office.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what changes trends, right? That's what makes impact. That's what gets people connected, is when you do something that's a little out of the norm, but you connect with people while you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we would make formulations and I still keep the same, principles to this day, of it needs to smell great. It needs to look pretty in your hand. It needs to, the shampoo must lather a certain way. The fragrance needs to fill the room a certain way. It's not just about what it does to your hair. It's about the whole experience, how it makes you feel, what it says on the bottle, the color of the bottle, the way it feels in your hand. How does it come out? Like there's so many elements that are important when you start thinking about hair products or creating brands or creating products for people. And you have to go so far beyond surface level. And that was something that was the biggest impact on me and the biggest eye-opening, experience while working at this company and following and learning and growing.
Yeah. What was your first step into starting your own company? Because I look at your website, I was like, wow, this is a big company. Like, you've got it all figured out. And I'm just curious, what are the first steps going, okay, I'm going to do this on my own now?
Sure. Well, after a while, we, I took a leap of faith working with the company, and I moved to London for a while. My husband and I moved to Europe and met so many people and really broadened my horizons with hair. I did quite a bit of traveling across Europe and going to Japan, and you just start researching trends and learning about things. And I think there comes a point in your career where you do have to change it up a little bit. And so it was time for me to kind of branch off and maybe do some other developing or work and do other things. And so I took that time to work with other companies and kind of develop a few other ideas and concepts. But then a few years down the road, after I did that, I figured that I didn't really like giving my ideas to other people.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I say that in a very funny way. Like I had trouble letting go.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself and with my team, it was like, okay, let's do this. Let's make our own brand. We can do this. Let's take everything we've learned and let's look at the new trends and let's put something together that we're passionate about. And that's where the brand now FAVE4, that's where FAVE4 was born,
mm-hmm.
was coming up with a line that we felt fit now, right? So what people were looking for now. Each project and every time I would start a new project with brands, it's always something new. You can take what you've learned, but you always have to start from scratch. Who are you trying to help? What are you trying to convey? The message, the experience, like I said. So FAVE4 was actually that moment of let's make a brand. And it's all about favorites. So fave is a play on words with favorites. Mm-hmm. And it was, when you would walk in the grocery store or you would walk in a salon or you would look on the internet, no matter where you're shopping, there are lots and lots of hair products. And sometimes that can be, well, most of the time, that can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I even found myself, as someone who had developed products for 12, 13 years, a little confused